What's up everybody, Matt Moran here for another car review. This is of course the 2021 Jeep Wrangler 4xe. So about the 4xe version of the Wrangler. So this is the plug-in hybrid version, and so you have 21 miles of all electric range whenever it's fully charged, and you just charge it up right here and plug it in, and it's really cool. So it does have about 134 horsepower from those electric motors, so you can do a lot of your around town driving where you don't need a lot of horsepower with this thing completely in electric mode. And so, I mean, the Wrangler is a really, fun vehicle. I've already reviewed several Wranglers over the past several years of this new generation. And if you're someone who goes off-roading a lot or just does a lot of outdoor adventures, or you just are someone who wants a little bit more character in their daily driver, the Wrangler offers all those things and more. And this Sahara trim that we're looking at here is actually the cheapest version of the 4xe. There's Sahara, Rubicon, and then I believe an Altitude, more luxurious version at the top. So this one, is a little bit more pedestrian with its wheels and tires. It has 20-inch wheels on these, slightly lower profile tires versus what you get on like a Rubicon, for example, which has the much knobbier tires, and it's going to be a lot better and more capable off-road. But even in the Sahara trim here, it still is a trail-rated Jeep, and they even did the Rubicon Trail in one of these, of the Rubicon trim, with the 4xe completely in electric mode, they said. So I mean, very, very capable off-road, and even more so, having those electric motors means you really can fine-tune your inputs so that, whenever you're going over loose gravel and things like that, you have the instant power here of this. You don't have to rev up an engine and get a bunch of extra wheel spin and stuff. So yeah, it's a really cool combo, and this one in billet silver isn't super exciting on the outside here, but I think it does nicely set off the blue accents. That's another way you can tell you're looking at a 4xe. You'll see the blue accents here for the Jeep logo, the Wrangler logo, the trail rated logo, and then out back there is a 4xe badge there, also again with that blue color theme. And but aside from that, it's very subtle, and otherwise just looking at this, you would have no clue this is a plug-in hybrid version unless you know to look for this charge port here on the front fender. It's also important to note that the 4xe trim is only available on the unlimited configurations of the Wrangler, and also of course only available with an automatic. You can't get a manual with the plug-in hybrid thing or a two-door, but considering this is the most popular configuration for the Wrangler, it makes total sense that that's going to be what they're going to offer the 4xe package with here, at least initially. But yeah, overall I love how retro and fun the Wrangler looks here in this generation. I think it's a really good look. I love how those headlights there have the LED elements within them, while still retaining that old school kind of round headlamp and stuff. And I just think they still have just nailed the looks here on the JL Wranglers. All right, so let's start up and go for a drive. The Wrangler 4xe still has the same Jeep key as any other Jeep, and so I love the jerry can style look to it. And this one does have a push button start, but you still do have the switchblade key that pops out if you'd like. But yeah, just a really nice key, a little bit on the large side, but not too bad. And of course, since this is keyless access, keyless entry, and push button start, you just leave the key in your pocket and just hit the engine start button, and it turns on. So this is the first hint that this isn't an ordinary Wrangler, because you just got all the beeps, but that's it, so it just says it's ready, and that's it. You can start rolling in electric mode. I think most of the time, unless you have a completely dead battery, we'll start off in the electric mode here and start rolling until you actually need more power. Also, if you're curious to hear about the interior in a Wrangler Unlimited, my wife and I already did an interior review about a year or so ago on a Gladiator Mojave, which is very similar to this interior, almost identical. And I've reviewed so many Wranglers in the past, I will go ahead and link one of those previous reviews where I do go over the interior in an Unlimited, so you can kind of get an idea about what this interior is like. But as far as the 4xe, there isn't really too much that's unique. As far as trim and stuff goes, it's all the same. So the only unique things here are the gauges, which of course have changed here to reflect your battery level, and they got rid of our normal speedometer, and so on the right hand side there you just have your power gauge, and also show if you're charging. And then of course the info on the little digital portion in the middle there is unique, so that will go ahead and show you what's going on with your hybrid info, or it'll also just show you your electric range and all those types of things you can see in there. And so it's pretty simple, pretty easy to understand, especially if you're someone who's new to plug-in hybrids. It's not too confusing or anything, just a couple extra menus in there if you want to look at them. On the infotainment screen here, you can also dive into the e-hybrid menu, and that will go through showing you your power flow, so you actually want to see how everything's working and what's going on behind the scenes. That will illustrate that very nicely. Also show your driving history, charging schedule. It'll also allow you to set up the e-save mode, so it'll either save the battery, or you can charge the battery even with the gas engine if you really need a little bit of extra electric juice on the go. Very easy to digest if you're someone who's new to plug-in hybrids, and just a few extra little menus there, and that's it. So the only last little thing is that you do have a max regen button here right by your mute button, and so that is if you want to do what is similar to one pedal drive driving. I'll talk more about that as we're driving, but basically it does aggressive regenerative braking, so you use your brake pedal less in order to slow down, and it just kind of recaptures a lot more of that energy and puts it back into the battery, which is nice that they give you that option. All right, so setting off here in the Wrangler 4xe. So I'm currently in hybrid mode. Now I did do a couple of miles from my house fully charged here to this park, but I did put it in the e-save mode for most of that. I only did about a mile of electric driving so far, but that e-save mode is really handy because if you do want to save that electric range for some other time, you can use that. It will still kick on the electric motor and kick off the gas engine sometimes, so it doesn't always force you to use the gas engine, but it seems to be pretty intelligent about keeping my electric range, because it still says I have 21 miles of range left, which is what this vehicle is rated at. It did show me 22 miles of range whenever I left my house, but you know, it's nice and quiet. Honestly, the only thing you're hearing is the squeaking from this steering column. It's been squeaking almost constantly. So it's kind of funny whenever things are totally silent in a Wrangler what you actually hear. But, you know, just setting off here on a main road, it's kind of cool. You can hear the electric motors actually working. There's two electric motors. One is basically like the e-torque system you get in other 2-liter turbo Wrangler, but then it also has another electric motor sandwiched alongside that transmission, and so the electric power actually does go through that 8-speed automatic like you know, any other powertrain would in any other Wrangler, which is kind of cool. But for only having 134 horsepower from, you know, the electric motor, even though this thing weighs over 5,000 pounds, it moves it down the road totally fine. And if you're not in a hurry, you can do decent electric driving here, no problem whatsoever. I mean, we're now cruising almost 45 miles an hour, and it's still got plenty of punch. It doesn't even have any need to turn on the gas engine. So it's really cool that, you know, it does have a good amount of punch to it. And especially here in Sahara trim, without, you know, the tire noise you get on a Rubicon or something, it's fairly refined, honestly. You know, I mean, they did a lot of improvements with the JL Wrangler. Now, there are still a lot of typical shortcomings that are just compromises you have to have whenever you're going for, you know, a Wrangler, where, you know, you have very loose and imprecise steering. You have to make a lot of steering corrections in this vehicle because it does like to wander even whenever you don't have a breeze. Whenever you do have wind, I mean, this thing being so boxy and so high, you know, it does get blown around in the wind. You got to do even more steering corrections then. And all the other stuff, you know, the inputs are good enough. I'm actually, you know, I'm using the brakes a good bit here, and they actually feel pretty normal. A lot of times in plug-in hybrids with the regenerative braking kind of thing going on, they're not always the best, and sometimes the brake feel changes. So far in my first few miles of driving here, the brake pedals felt consistent the entire time, hasn't been weird, and feels really good. It actually starts biting right as you start leaning onto the brake pedal there, and feels very reassuring. The gas is also very immediate, especially here because of that electric motor. I mean, you get an instant little zip the second you dip into that gas. There's no waiting around, there's no dead travel. So honestly, I mean, at low speeds, this is probably my favorite driving Wrangler I've driven out of all of them. I've tried the, you know, the 2-liter turbo, the regular V6, and even the 392 V8 version. I also, by the way, am in the 4-high auto mode, so it's still like any other Wrangler. You can lock it into 2-wheel drive, rear-wheel drive mode, or you can do 4-high. There's also a 4-high part-time, or there's neutral, and then 4-low. So you do still have that low range you can lock it into, but I do have it in the 4-high. The reason being is that I believe it limits power a little bit in the 2-wheel drive mode, but that would be probably the way to get the best efficiency if you're not trying to zip around too much. But I'm going to do an acceleration here. Again, I'm in the hybrid mode. You can also force it to go into a fully electric mode if you don't want to have the gas engine on. We're in the hybrid mode. Let's turn down onto this back road here and see how it does. And here we go. Okay, there we go. Woke up the gas engine, and then it pulls really nicely. So yeah, once everything's working together, it works great. Just there was like a 1, 2, maybe 3 second beat before it was like, okay, now we're going. By the way, the gas engine is warmed up. That's part of the reason why I did the e-save mode as well, so we weren't doing a full throttle acceleration on a stone cold motor. And the motor was still up to temp here. So anyway, it's still a good amount of power. I mean, it's actually really torquey. It has 470 pound-feet of torque, which actually matches the 392 V8 version of the Wrangler, and 0 to 60 times 5.5 seconds still, so very quick here for the 4xe as well. It's 375 horsepower, by the way. It makes all that power by the 2-liter turbocharged 4-cylinder combined with those 2 electric motors I mentioned earlier. So even though the electric motor does 134 horsepower on its own, the gas engine only does about 270 horsepower. So in reality, it seems like you're mostly only getting about 100 horsepower from that electric motor when it's working with the gas engine. So I'm not sure, something gets lost in translation there or what, as far as why you're not over 400 horsepower with those 2 motors working together. But regardless, 5.5 seconds 0 to 60 time is totally fine. I think it's just that delay is the only thing that's not the best as far as, trying to, get up and go pretty quickly. But otherwise, once I was done doing that acceleration, it turned off the gas engine immediately. And again, we're back to electric range here. And whenever you're in that hybrid mode, it will favor that electric range no matter what. So it'll go until that battery is flat and then start using that gas engine. Again, unless you need more power than what the electric motor can offer you. But so far, I haven't been babying this thing, and it still is, wanting to keep it in the electric mode, and it's been totally fine here. So I'm pretty impressed. I was kind of having low expectations for this electric motor, considering it's not a ton of power and this thing is very heavy. But yeah, it's not having any problems here at normal, if you're doing the speed limit or, around the speed limit and you're not flooring it from every stop sign and red light. It's totally fine. I 100% see myself doing my daily commute in this thing in electric mode only and be totally fine. Now we'll see how it does on the highway. That's going to be the last component here. But this road is actually a little bit on the rougher side. Still don't really have much road noise, So they have done a really good job of making these Wranglers feel pretty refined, aside from that constantly squeaking steering column. Anyway, we're coming up some corners here, and let's see how the 4xe handles. So this is an interesting story as far as handling goes. Obviously, this is a Wrangler. They are not set up to be handlers, not by any stretch of the imagination, even the 392 version. So this one is about 800 pounds heavier than a regular, even V6 Wrangler Unlimited. So these weigh 5,318 pounds here. Unlike other plug-in hybrids or electric vehicles where the batteries are really low in the frame. First off, you're sitting up really high in a Wrangler, but also the battery pack is just sitting under the back seat cushion. So it's not super low. It's not like it's in the floor or anything like that. So the batteries are a little high up, so that also is going to give you even lower handling limits. Now this one, again, being the Sahara on these lower profile tires, certainly will help you out a little bit with these larger wheels. If you had the Rubicon, I'd be terrified to even do the speed limit around half these corners probably. But it's doing okay. I know no one buys a Wrangler to go around corners in, but just if you are on your daily commute and you happen to have a few corners in your commute, just know, it's going to have lower limits, I think, than what you're going to get on a regular Wrangler. I think even like the 2-liter turbo Wrangler certainly handled a good bit better than this. But yeah, otherwise, it's just the typical Wrangler driving experience. Very much the same as what you got on any other Wrangler. And so, I accelerated from that stop sign a little bit quicker. Gas engine is kicking on here. But honestly, it's been a pretty smooth handoff between the gas engine and the electric motor so far, in my experience at least here. It's been doing a pretty good job, aside from that first acceleration when you're requesting full throttle power. But otherwise, it seems to do a pretty good job of shuffling around, all the different duties to all the different powertrains, behind the scenes without you having to do anything. So it's pretty nice with all of that. Also, a couple other things to mention here. The battery size is 14 kilowatt hours. That is kind of important whenever you're trying to figure out your tax credits and things like that, which I'll get more into pricing here later in the video, but just wanted to mention that here earlier. 14 kilowatt hour battery, again, gives you 21 miles of electric range, although it was telling me 22. Also, another thing that I know a lot of Wrangler owners do is tow, and the tow rating here for the 4xe version is 3,500 pounds. So not too bad. Probably isn't the best towing, but if you want the best towing possible, you're probably better off getting a Gladiator. Otherwise, I think for most people that should be totally sufficient, and it's nice that you can still have the electric component and stuff and still have really solid towing. But now we're merging onto the highway here, behind traffic, like most people will be doing on their commute. You usually don't have a runway to accelerate on whenever you're doing a highway merge here. And so, being stuck behind this 4Runner here as we're just trying to merge, it's plenty of power with the electric motor here to slowly get up to the speeds we're going to get up to here for the highway. Alright, gas engine kicked on there for a second just because I gave it a little bit more gas. We're going to try and pass a slow-moving vehicle here, see how it does with the pass. Okay, gas engine kicked on. Very seamless. Getting my passing done here. gas engine's already back off, and we're back to completely electric driving. So yeah, honestly, you know, with the lower range of this vehicle and, you know, the fact that it was so heavy, and again, the electric motor was so, you know, small and not super powerful, I was not expecting to have this thing be as good as it is in electric mode. I'm really impressed. Yeah, I mean, I know some people, you know, do drive more than 21 miles a day, but at least it's great that you get, you know, most of your commute done completely on electricity, and, you know, you still have that gas engine there if you do happen to drive across the country. And now we're getting off the highway here, and I put on the max regen mode to try out this one pedal driving, or kind of like one pedal driving. And so my foot is completely off the gas, just coasting, and it does slow down faster than normal coasting, but it still doesn't slow down as fast as I'm used to with other one pedal drive systems. And I also tried it around my neighborhood earlier, and it does, you know, help to slow you down, but I still don't think it is truly one pedal driving, because you know, it still is wanting to roll at those lower speeds and not come to a complete stop. I mean, it will eventually, but it just took a lot longer to do so than most other one pedal driving systems I've experienced in other electric vehicles primarily. A lot of plug-in hybrids don't have that, so I do appreciate that this has it, but just would wish there was a little bit more aggressive, especially at those lower speeds, of helping to slow you down. But anyway, thanks to Jeep, I'm going to have the Wrangler 4xe here for an entire week, so I'm going to drive all over the place and charge it up at night in my garage, and then I'll come back and give you guys my final real-world fuel economy and other efficiency numbers as far as how much driving I can actually manage to do on electric only. And also I'll come back and give you guys my thoughts on the pricing, its competitors, and anything else I noticed here during my week of driving. Alright, so I've been driving the Wrangler 4xe for about a week here now, and I've really enjoyed it. You know, plug-in hybrids really fascinate me, and I think this one is very well done. So, you know, every once in a while, it's not totally smooth, but it's honestly, it's not bad. I wouldn't say it's really super under-refined most of the time. I'd say most of the time, you know, it works flawlessly in the background, and I didn't really have any issues with it. But the one thing issue-wise I did have was right towards the end of my week here, the check engine light came on. I'm not sure what the deal was with that. You know, it could just be something with this car or what. I did Google it, and it looks like there are a few other 4xe people that are experiencing check engine lights, so maybe there is some little, you know, thing they need to fix or something with these. But I mean, it's been driving totally fine. I haven't had any issues with it. The gas engine, whenever it does rarely kick on, it's, you know, totally fine. But yeah, I mean, I've just been plugging it in basically every night and topping off the battery if I didn't use the full, you know, 21 miles of range. A couple of days it actually did quote me 25 miles of range there on the range estimate, and I was able to discharge it and, you know, use, I'd say most of the time at least 21, sometimes I'd say maybe even close to 22 miles of range. Now it's funny though, because, you know, even whenever you are in the hybrid mode or even in fully electric mode, there are times where it will still kick on the gas engine. So I mostly just left it in the hybrid mode, but even whenever there's times where I was like coasting down a hill or something, sometimes it would inexplicably just turn on the gas engine. I'm not sure why. You know, I mean, I think in the electric mode, unless you floor it, it will stay in fully electric mode, but in the hybrid mode, just keep in mind, I think it just likes to warm up the engine a little bit just to get it up to temp, so that if you do need some kind of power, you know, out of that gas engine, you know, you're not just redlining a cold engine every time, you know, you're using it. But yeah, I mean, I'm really impressed though. Now I've been driving about 80 miles here in my week here, and 67.2 of those miles have been all electric, and only 12.4 miles of gas engine propulsion have been used. So, I mean, it's really cool they break it down like that for you, and so I'm very, very impressed. So, you know, and it doesn't take super long to charge either. You know, most nights, I mean, the very first night when the battery was totally dead, it was telling me like 14 and a half hours to charge on my slow 120 volt, you know, power outlet. If it was like halfway dead, it was like an 8-hour recharge time. Sometimes it'd be like 12 hours. So, I mean, you know, it's a plug-in hybrid, so it's not the end of the world if it doesn't fully charge overnight for you. But, I mean, you know, I think it's totally fine as far as the recharge times and stuff for the average person that's plugging it in whenever they get home at night and not leaving until the next morning. You know, you have no issues whatsoever. But that's the nice thing with plug-in hybrid, is if you don't have time to sit there and recharge it, you just hop in it, make sure you got gas in the tank, and you're good to go still. So I really love that flexibility, and I think that's why plug-in hybrids are, at least here in the 2020s, going to be probably one of the best solutions for most Americans that want to be able to do a road trip at the drop of a hat and want that freedom and that flexibility. The Wrangler 4xe gives you that, and so I think it's great. But even despite all that electric driving though, my actual fuel economy here, the MPGe combined of the two, has only been 36.7. mpge. So these are rated at 49 mpge, and so that is, you know, combined rating that again factors in you using that electric motor. And so I was just a little bit underwhelmed that I didn't get, you know, a better, you know, mpge rating. Now if you do straight gas, these are only rated at 20 mpg all around. So you know, obviously you have that extra weight to, you know, carry around here for this gas engine, so it's going to get worse fuel economy whenever you're just using that gas engine than a regular Wrangler, and that's totally understandable. But you know, I just figured I'd be getting a little bit of a better mpge rating. I think again, if you are using that electric motor as much as you can, you know, it's still going to be very, very economical, especially as far as Wranglers go. But the last thing to mention here is the pricing in the Wrangler 4xe. So you do pay a premium for the plug-in hybrid stuff, but again, this stuff isn't cheap, and so that's to be expected. Now, a lot of people will be eligible for the $7,500 tax credit here in this vehicle. So with that assistance, you know, it does come out pretty close to being even with a non-plug-in hybrid 4xe, because the price premium here is about $7,000 over a regular Sahara Wrangler Unlimited. Those start around 41 and change. This is around $48,000 starting, and then this one as tested is about $56,000 with some of the options it has. But the thing about the $7,000 price premium too that's important to note is that it's not just a straight comparison. A Sahara version of the 4xe is going to give you a lot more equipment than what you get on a regular Sahara Wrangler Unlimited. So, you know, this gives you the bigger wheels as standard. You will also get the bigger touchscreen as standard. A Sahara with a regular Wrangler still will give you the smaller touchscreen first, and then you have to pay for an upgrade for this 8.4 inch screen. Versus the 4xEs, they all get this bigger screen, and there are a few other features like that, so that it's not really a fair comparison with this and a regular Sahara. You know, if you look at a Sahara that has the same options as this, that closes the gap even more, so that again, when you factor in the tax credit, this may actually come out to be a slightly better deal than a regular Sahara, you know, if that tax credit does work out for you. I will say, personally, aside from the Wrangler 392 with its insane, hilarious V8, I think this is actually my second favorite version of the Wrangler. I do love the plug-in hybrid thing, and the fact that you have way more power than other Wranglers, again, aside from that V8 version. So it's great having all that power, but still having just such a good electric motor that does give me enough punch that most of this time I've been driving has been fully electric without me having to baby the gas. And I've still been doing my normal driving in my normal style, you know, not feathering the gas or anything, and it's still, you know, it has all the electric punch that I need here, and I really enjoy it. So, you know, if it works out for you with the tax credit, and if it, you know, is something that interests you, I'd say go for it. I think it's really, really cool. And yeah, I just really enjoyed my week in it here. But that's about all of my thoughts here on the Wrangler 4xe. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Huge thanks to Jeep for providing me here with the Wrangler 4xe to review for you guys today. And yeah, thank you guys very much for watching. I'll see you on the next one. Take care.